Hello everyone, back again to do a quick video on a handle repair. I had a coworker contact me and said he actually melted his handle off his J.A. Henckels paring knife. You can barely see it there, but the logo is still barely visible here. It is a J.A. Henckels 4-inch paring knife, and I just wanted to make a video going through the process and see if we can get him a handle. What I'm going to end up using is a piece of maple, and I'm going to put some black liners. So just, start the process. It's just a stud type pin where one end gets pushed into the other. As you all may know, a Chicago screw will screw into itself in the same fashion. I probably won't take the camera with me, but just to give you a general idea, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and cut this about here. I'm going to give myself a little room from the heel of the knife out, just for some play. Is I will actually come in and cut two slices, about 2 to 3/16 inch thick from the edge out. And what that's going to do, once I add in the liner, it's going to give me plenty of room. Actually, that'll bring it just past the guard about by a 1/16 of an inch. And then with the addition of the liner, it'll give me another 16. So I'm going to have plenty. The original scales handles on this was a black rubberized material, and it was very flat all the way across. So what I'm going to probably do is make it fairly flat with a little palm swell here, just a little bit. I have the basic shape of the knife here. I'm not going to modify it in any way. I'm going to try to use what he has. I'm going to actually use this hole pin size, which will fit through all three. Okay everyone, back from the garage. I ended up cutting the section here. As you can see, I used a circular saw. I don't have a bandsaw, so I ended up using what I have, which is a circular saw instead of a back saw also. I did end up getting a little burn mark there from holding it next to the blade a little bit too long, so it heated up just a little bit. And then, as you can see, I was able to cut my scales pretty well, pretty consistent. Again, little burn mark, but no big deal. They're going to get, and that's going to disappear for the handle material. But as you can see, I think that maple is going to make that a very beautiful handle. And as I hold the knife here, you can actually see that slight gap in there. So we're going to see if we can get rid of that for him. So I do have the two scales here ready to go. The epoxy I'm going to use. And if you bear with me, I'll just go ahead and do this now. So there we have two very equal amounts of hardener and resin. And I'm just going to go ahead and mix those two components together. And what you will notice with my liners that I cut out, I actually cut them both a little bigger than the scales, because what happens is, as I clamp them down, I'm going to have material, resin, ooze out the sides. And instead of, putting something underneath it and, just having a very unlevel surface, I just make the liner a little bit bigger, and then I clamp directly down onto the scale itself. So whatever epoxy gets pushed out, it gets pushed out onto the liner itself, and it just holds it there until you come in and trim everything up and clean it up. So as you can see, we got a pretty good mix there. Apply the epoxy to the scale itself and not to the liner. That way I know I don't have excessive amounts of epoxy. Here we have the scale with the epoxy on it, and fortunately right here there's a compartment for another computer, a desktop. So I just have the door open and I'm going to clamp directly to my desk in that opening. So we're going to go ahead and just do this process now. Go ahead and get my scale down. Go ahead and get me a couple of clamps in. I'll use 2 for these scales. Okay everyone, just back from Ace Hardware. Just wanted to give you a quick look at what I was able to find and what I wasn't able to find. Basically, here I found a, let's see, get this turned around here. I found a 5/32 tubing. They didn't have 5/32 rod. So I may very well use an aluminum outside and then use a brass insert. The brass rod is a 1/8 inch OD. So epoxy these two together, create my own custom pins. Or, since I was there, what I also found was a 3/16 inch solid stainless steel rod. The knife blade is actually made out of stainless, so I may still consider using that, but if I do, I'm going to have to drill into his knife blank, and I really don't want to do that. I want to keep it you know, as original as possible for him. I mean, it's not my knife, and at this point he hasn't given me the okay to make any type of modifications to it. So I will probably pose those 2 questions by him come Monday morning. But right now, as you can see, scales are all secured, drying, ready to go. They should be ready to go here pretty soon. So we'll get those unclamped here in a few hours and get them trimmed up, and we'll start to shape the end that's going to butt up against the guards. So stay tuned. Okay everyone, it's Sunday morning. We're going to go ahead and unclamp the scales at this point and take a look at what we have. They have cured 24 hours, so we should be able to have a good view of the type of product we're going to end up having here. Again, forgive my shadow in the camera. I've tried moving it several different places, but with the lighting in here, this is as good as it's going to get. Alright, here we have it thus far. See if we can pick up this again. I just saw a flash. If you can see that shiny area here, right there, you can actually see where the liner caught the extra epoxy. And that's one of the reasons why I do make them a little bit longer. We'll go ahead and get started. Okay, everyone, as you can see, I got them pretty close. I'm going to move over to the larger belt sander here, and I have a 6-inch disc as well as a 4-inch. Scales ready for mounting. Okay, everyone, here we have the scales, the maple scales with the black liners. They are epoxied on, trimmed, and all excess material removed. What I have to do now is actually see if we can pick this up on camera here. If you can see right along the edge of the guard, there's a gap, so I'm going to have to actually taper from this outer edge down to the liner material to give me a taper, so it's actually going to go at an angle this way, crossways, so it will meet flush. I'm going to have to do that on both scales. And then once I have that complete, I can go ahead and get these epoxied on to the knife blank itself. Just one, if I didn't take care of that now beforehand, there'll be no way for me to do it at a later time. So I'm going to go ahead and get it done. And as you can see, we have plenty of room for error here. It's better to lose a little bit of material now than to have to scrap the project because you made your tolerances too tight and something shifted when you were epoxying and putting down your clamp. It all of a sudden slid and you didn't notice it, and now your knife is hanging off your scale like this, and you have an issue. You're going to have to, cut all the material off and start from stage one. So this way we can get it done right, and take our time and try to achieve the best possible product we can. So stay tuned, and we'll continue on with Rehandle. And I'm not sure if my camera's going to pick this up, but let's see if we can possibly get it. I made a custom pin because when I went to the hardware store, they didn't have solid aluminum. They had hollow aluminum in 3/32, but not solid. So what I ended up doing was creating a brass and aluminum pin. Basically, this will be cut down for each one of the holes. You can do it outside in the garage, but again, there's no need to be out there in the cold when I'm just going to be back here at my desk getting everything clamped up and then in a heat source so this epoxy cures properly. You're probably wondering, well, why is he putting it on here instead of the scale? Well, the scale's, I'll say almost 2 times as big as the knife blade here, the handle, and there's really no need to waste all that epoxy material. I waste enough as it is. I always mix more than what I'm going to use. But, you know, we just do the best we can. Be as generous and as frugal as we can be at the same time. Um, Epoxy is a little bit on the pricey side, especially for the better grade epoxies. I've tried some that, you know, just didn't work at all. They say they're 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute, and they're permanent bonds, and they don't end up being. So I bond something and then they fail. This one, however, lives up to its reputation as being a outstanding epoxy.